Morning, AO. Good morning. I'm Joel Gandara, and I am ready to go and answer some questions for you. And before I start, I want to tell you that I was thinking about, it's actually popped in my mind many times before, and I may have said this to some of you, but in business and in life, we sometimes we have blinders on and we think that's the path and there's just one way to go. Um, I want to invite you to consider taking those blinders off. It's great to be focused and moving in one direction, but look for opportunities because you might think that your dream business is to sell lawn furniture, right? And you're exploring that and you're growing it and you're doing it, but you may just miss that it's all about selling rugs. And if you would jump into the rug market, you would have exploded that business. And it's not to be zigzagging and going crazy, but just be open to the possibility of seeing what's out there, listening to what customers are telling you, and not being enamored with something so much that you're just saying, this is what I do, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah, go ahead and do that, but keep your mind open. So I'll share a very relevant story with that. I've been mentoring people for over 15 years, and some of those without even knowing I was mentoring, but they've come back to me years later and said, you helped me a lot when you told me this and this, and when we'd go to coffee and you told me this. I thought we were just having conversations all these years, but it's made some impact on some people's lives. And about just over a year ago, a year and a few days ago, Sean Thomas here in Accelerator asked me to coach someone, and it was a paid thing, and I'd never done that before. And then I thought, well, sure, I guess I'll give it a try. Why not? I didn't think that it would turn into now this coaching business that'll do like $250,000 because I coached some people in Accelerator, but I've now have reached other people outside, and it's grown quite a bit. Had zero intentions of that happening, but I was willing, Sean had a good idea, and I was willing to hear him out and give it a shot and see if that's something worth giving a shot and trying, and it's worked out very well. I don't know that I'll do it forever because I kind of miss being retired again, but it's been a fun ride, and that's opened up into conversations with people who then have told me about certain investments, and I've done them, and it's opened up this whole world that you don't realize that you've gotten here. And they say, how did I get here? Well, I connected this, and that's right. Over here, I talked to Sean. He told me about coaching people. I coached a few people, and then I started coaching people from other places that I met outside of AO, and that led to this other thing, and pretty soon you're here. And all that comes from just being open-minded and willing to hear people out and see what ideas they have and what can come out of it. So, all right, let's jump into some questions. This is from Lindsay Grifka. Question: how much should be invested in packaging? Should packaging be different based on retail price of the product? Business description and background of question. I just sold my first all Swarovski tubed, price at $89.99, and now I feel bad shipping it in a plain white non-branded bubble mailer. It seems like my packaging for this type of item should be more luxurious and branded. I have read 3% of costs for luxury items and 1 to 3% for more basic items. Thanks for your insight. So, elevator pitch for Lindsay's company. At Bling Blunts, we break stereotypes and promote self-expression and confidence by offering innovative and chic personal storage containers that are high fashion, functional, and discreet. So our hashtag CanaFam can enjoy themselves to the fullest without critique or judgment. Try our smell-resistant, airtight, child-proof, and reusable containers today. Okay, that's very clear. It's very long, but it's very clear what that elevator pitch is. So let's think about it. If you're two things. If you're in this for a transaction to make a quick buck, then I don't think the packaging is as important. But if you're trying to build a long-term brand and really build something out, then I do think the packaging is important, especially in the world that we live in, where people could share this on Instagram and do a video and do like a box unboxing and that sort of thing. I think it is important because it's not like the old days where you'd order something from a catalog and it would arrive and it was just you looking at it. Now you can share this to the world. Everybody has a voice nowadays. The internet has democratized society and shopping. So I don't know what that magic number is. You can try a few things. I have a rule with spending money. I always try to spend the least and get the most that I can out of it. So that's the definition of that to me is value. If I could spend $3 on that packaging, or if the number has to be $8, it has to be $8. Whatever the number is, you'll figure that out by testing different things. But just on my first assumption, you're selling a Swarovski tube that has, crystals or diamonds or whatever's on there, and you're selling it in a plain white non-branded bubble mailer. Yeah, that's probably too low. I would try to raise it up a little bit. And sometimes we get trapped in the weeds, and we're just working and we're trying to be efficient, and that's good, Lindsay. Be efficient, be quick. But if you are selling something a little bit higher category, you do want to consider the customer, right? So what's that experience like? What is it like when they open that? Would you be happy receiving that? Do you want a branded package? Do you want something a little bit nicer? Put yourself in that person's experience. Have a few people give you their opinion. Look at a lot of different options. Talk to companies. There's several, I think, in AO here that might be able to help you with packaging and looking at all those different options. Okay, let's go to the next question. So this question, it says it comes from Sean Thomas. Probably somebody wrote to Sean and he pasted it here. So I don't know who wrote it, but let's say, question. Without a team to delegate to and without the budget to hire a full team, how did you get things done when you first started your company and it was just you? Background. I hear many experienced entrepreneurs talk about delegating and only doing the things you are great at. And unfortunately, it's only me, and I'm just starting. So I don't have the team nor the money to hire a full team. I know I can't be alone in trying to understand how to get everything done on a limited budget and it only being me. How did you do it when you were first starting? Is it just mindset, or where did you go to learn everything to get everything done? Looking for your story. Thanks so much. Okay, so great question. And I like the fact that this question is asking, how did you do it, right? Because sometimes the questions that I see people ask, they're kind of assuming that there is this one right answer. I can share with you what's worked for me and my story, and you should ask that question to 20 entrepreneurs, hopefully that have had success, so you're getting it from successful people. So let's see, in the very beginning, I did not have money, and I did everything myself, including the things I was good at, the things I was bad at, the things I liked to do, and the things I did not like to do. But I was already forming an opinion in my head of all the things that I absolutely hated doing, and those would be the things that my first employee would take over. And my first employee was my older brother. He's 5.5 years older, so imagine that was kind of weird to hire my older brother and he had to take orders from me. Very, very different from what my growing up was like, where I did everything he said. But what did I have him do? Well, here's the thing. I worked 10, 12, 16 hours a day in my own business when it was home-based. It was all I did. I woke up and I worked until I went to sleep. And I did that repeat for many years until I finally got busy enough to open a warehouse, and I just ran out of space in my 3-car garage. So I moved. I got a small warehouse in the beginning that was maybe 1,500, 2,000 square feet maybe. And I couldn't pick all those orders because orders were coming in, and I couldn't be working in the warehouse all day and invoice and contact clients. I couldn't do all of it. So when I hired my brother, my first hire, he was in the warehouse picking all of the orders, and I was in the office invoicing. And then from there, I hired another person. And then eventually I hired a person to do all the invoicing and another person to answer the customer service emails, and I went getting things off my plate. And those of you who know my story know that I retired by age 40 from the day-to-day grind of my business. And it's because I hired people to do everything. And now the only thing I do are the most top-level things that I don't think you should ever outsource or hire or delegate. And it's strategy, and in my case, acquisitions. We've bought, I think it's now 13 or 14 businesses, and so I'm in charge of that, and that's really my passion, and I love it. And so all the other things I've hired out. But again, I didn't start that way. I started by doing every single thing. And don't procrastinate because you're overanalyzing and trying to learn every single thing. I'm not an expert at anything. I'm pretty good at some things, and that's it. But I moved, I did it, I figured it out, I failed quickly, or I learned quickly, and I moved on. And I just kept repeating that. So don't lose faith. Do a lot of work. If you're watching 1 hour of TV a month, you're wasting time, because you're saying, it's only me, maybe you're limited on time. Don't waste 1 minute of your day and then tell me, if you've maxed out, if you're working 16 hours every single day, 6-7 days a week, and then you get to a point where you just can't handle it anymore, and then either this isn't the right business or it should now be generating revenue to hire that first person. So you're not going to get rich in the beginning. You'll hopefully get rich over time, but you got to do all the work and invest in growing that and hiring people and getting systems in place. Next question is from Trish Murphy. Question they asked: what is the best text marketing software for e-commerce? Business description and background of question. I sell false eyelashes online. I'm looking for ways of increasing sales. I'm hoping that text marketing might be a new strategy that could help, but want to make sure I choose the right software from the beginning to optimize my efforts. Elevator pitch: I sell false eyelashes to makeup artists, beauty supply stores, salons, and the end consumer. My website is eyelashesunlimited.com. Well, Trish, I don't know what the best of anything is. I don't know who the best person at anything is or the best software. I don't know that you have to have the best. The best one may not be marketed. It's some small one that hasn't grown yet, but it's probably the best one. You never know. So I'll tell you the one we use and we're happy with and spend thousands of dollars with every month. It's called Attentive, and Attentive is easy to use and it's super simple. You load up a text and you send it and you blast it to your whole community of texts. Now, make sure you do have to have the permission of all these people. If you use something like an Attentive, you can't just plug in numbers. They all have to be opted in through Attentive or through a company that they validate is worth accepting those. Like we just bought a business recently, a month ago, where it's not Attentive, but we want to move everything to Attentive because we like keeping everything on a platform. For example, we have like 13 Shopify Plus sites. If we buy a business that's not on Shopify, we move it into Shopify Plus. So we just want to have one way of doing things. So with this business we just bought, it had thousands of opted-in text messages, text numbers, and because it was a reputable company, Attentive allowed us to import those. And so give them a try, Attentive. I think they're very good. I've recommended them to multiple people in AO, and they've seen success with it. So give that a shot. Another question from Trish Murphy from eyelashesunlimited.com. Is it critical to have a trademark when you create a brand? Are there inexpensive ways of getting around trademarks being denied? So let's see here. Business description and background of this question. I sell false eyelashes online. I created my own brand of false eyelashes that has done pretty well, but have run into trademark issues with the name. They have been worn by Miss USA title holders and contestants on The Bachelor. So I have some good product photos for them, and everyone has really loved them. I haven't done a ton with trying to sell them wholesale because of not having the name trademark, but do sell them on my website along with other brands. The trademark hasn't been approved because it is the name of a geographic location. Should I continue using this name or start over with the name and branding in order to ensure I can get a trademark? Trish, this is better answered by a trademark attorney. It's amazing how in life there's such specific skill sets. Like when I talk to my attorney that does all our transactional work, and he litigates or he does contracts and things like that. If I asked him this question, he would say, well, let's talk to our IP guy, right? Intellectual property, trademark guy. So there's attorneys just for that. But I'll share my experience. I own, 21 brands, something like it. It fluctuates because we'll discontinue, we'll kill off brands and we start a new one. So it's usually around 20 brands. Some of those are not trademarked, and it's because we're going to give it a shot. And unless a brand has done $1 million or $2 million, I'm not sure it's a great brand yet. So we'll just try them and do them for a year or two. And then if we start seeing, this brand is doing really well, let's protect ourselves. Let's trademark it. Now, before we launch a brand, we make sure we get the domain. We go to uspto.gov. That's the United States Patent and Trade Office.gov. And we look up to make sure that name is not taken by anyone else. And then we do a lot of Google searching. So we make sure, okay, it looks like no one has this, and all that is zero cost, right? We're just exploring to see what's out there. We get the domain, make sure nobody's on Google with that, and lastly, uspto.gov to review trademark with that name. There are some names, for whatever reason, again, I'm not an attorney, I don't give any legal advice, but there are some names that you cannot get a trademark for, but you're fine using them. I've seen that happen. So I don't recommend necessarily you could talk to an attorney, a trademark attorney, but If it hasn't been a problem and you've been using this, whether you have the official trademark or not, it all happens. It all matters when you started using that brand. So if you've been using that name and no one else has, you might be, I think, again, I'm not an attorney, but you might be protected in the fact that you've had that since day this. And now if I came onto the market to compete with you and I now introduced it with your same name, I'd probably have some trouble because you can prove use from way before I can. All right. Next question is from Lindsay Lannon. The question is, what are some red flags to look for when opening an account with a vendor or reviewing a contract? Business description and background of question. I own a chocolates company and I've been starting to gather vendors for packaging, chocolate supplies, etc. I want to make sure I don't get myself into a situation where I overpay or agree to a contract I regret. Elevator pitch. I sell chocolates with ingredients collected from direct trade farms in sustainably sourced packaging. That's a great elevator pitch. That seems like something you'd expect from a Whole Foods brand or something like that. Fantastic. So Lindsay, I don't know what you're in fear of with these vendors, that you're apprehensive. It's okay. That's fine to be. I would read those contracts. I asked a friend of mine who exited his business. He sold part of it to a private equity company and they grew it really big, and then he sold the other part to Bed Bath and Beyond, and all the way along that he was the CEO of the company for 10 years. Even after the first sale, then the second sale, he stayed on board. Very successful, very knowledgeable person. And he told me that what he noticed is that when him and his 50 employees or whatever he was when he was smaller, was that he'd sign contracts and he'd never read them. And he said the difference when we took on that private equity, when they brought us on and bought us, and then that with Bed Bath and Beyond, is there was a legal team to read every word in every contract. And that's interesting that they're that detailed, that they would read every single thing to avoid surprises later and to negotiate properly at the beginning, because you're agreeing to the rules of the game. And then halfway through the game, you can't say, well, no, I don't agree to that. Too bad. You already signed that you agree to the rules of the game. That's all a contract is. So I'll tell you what I don't like with a vendor is I don't like being locked in or pressured. I just personally don't function that way. So I don't want a situation where it's a long-term thing and I'm really locked into having to work with them or guaranteed price increases or anything like that. So I would read the contract. I would get somebody else to read it, ideally an attorney if you can afford one, but definitely somebody who can kind of see this through a different lens. You know, you're seeing it from here, and if I'm over here, I'll see it from this other side, and I might catch something that you won't, and I might have the experience from that situation. Definitely an attorney who deals with contract law. They would be the best person to see this and at least explain it to you. Because I've had to do that many times where I'll go to my attorney and say, look, I have this contract, I'm confused. I read all this and here's my notes. I try to make it easy for my attorney so I don't get billed too much at $300 an hour or whatever it is. And I'll say, this paragraph, I think it's this. Is that right? And he'll say, yes. Now we're done. He doesn't have to go explaining it all to me. This one, I believe it says this. And he'll say, yeah, except for you have to also consider this other thing. And then lastly, I'll say, well, this paragraph, I don't understand it. I'm so confused. Explain it to me. And then he'll explain it. And then I can make an informed decision now that I have all the data. So yeah, look for people that you can see yourself wanting to work with long term, and always make sure there's a way out. I really hate companies that lock you in for 6 months when you don't know if they're good. You have to test them the first month. So I always try to ask, to negotiate on that. I also try to ask for a better price. How about we test in the beginning and kind of date before we get married? Just the same thing with employees. I have a very good system for hiring people and onboarding them. And part of it, there's multiple parts, but part of that is bringing them on as an independent contractor temporarily. Even if it's just 2 days, I want to see how they work before I get married to them by offering them a job, and then I have to go through the whole process to lay them off if they're no good. And doing these sorts of tests, we found great results. Same thing with a contractor. You can tell them, let's just do a test, no contract. Let's do this small test and see what happens, if possible. It all depends on what we're talking about here. Okay. Next question is also by Lindsay Lannon. So she's the chocolate person. I don't have to read that part again. Question is, what are the best credit cards to get for a business bank account? Those are two different things, but what are the best credit cards to get for a business bank account? So two things. One is your bank account. That's at the bank. And the other one is a credit card, independent of your bank. It could be through your bank, but it could just be an American Express. Um, I used to say to always get a credit card with no annual fee, and that's because why pay them to be able to use their credit card when all the other ones give it to you for free. I changed that recently and started paying an annual fee on a card myself for a new business. And the reason is because I know our spending. I know that we're spending on that card over $500,000 easily every year. So to pay a couple $100s for using that card to get a better return is worth it. So here's my thoughts on credit cards. I've never paid credit card interest in my life, personal or business. It is the biggest scam that exists on this planet. It's a hole. I don't think it should be illegal because I'm a capitalist and I believe everybody's allowed to make money. If you're dumb enough to pay it and they're smart enough to collect it, then they're allowed that. But it's dumb to pay credit card interest. So number one, it doesn't matter if it's 100% interest, 20% interest, 1% interest. The interest rate, I don't look at that when I've opened credit cards, and I have a lot of business credit cards for different businesses. So interest rate doesn't matter. It can entice you with, the first year you get 0 interest. Who cares? You're not going to pay interest. If you do, you're probably not going to make money in your life because the interest rate that they charge is 20%, 22%, 23%. Well, most businesses are not netting 22%, 23%. So how are you ever going to make money? So I look for things that give me back rewards, and I don't want those rewards to be travel or gifts or meaningless things because all I want is cash. If a credit card can give me 1.5% back on cash and I spend $1 million a year, what is that, $15,000 that you get free, just absolutely free on your next statement. It's applied at the top. So on one of my credit cards that I've seen recently, we're getting back like about $1,000 a month every month, just free cash right on top. That's amazing. You know what you have to do to go net $1,000? You have to go sell quite a bit. So I look for cash back, the highest percentage possible on the type of things I buy. So some of them will give you a lot of cash back on restaurants and things like that. But nowadays you can't write off restaurants so much in most businesses, so that's not relevant. But if it's gasoline and you own a trucking company and they give 2% back on gasoline, fantastic. If I have a card that gives a very good return on shipping, and I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year on shipping, or more, maybe $1 million. So that is something that's attractive to me. So I would look to see what's giving you the most cash back. That's the way to go for me. All right, another question from Lindsay Land. And Lindsay, you're really getting your money's worth out of AO, and you're being very smart asking questions. Do you invest in your business, buy a house, or work towards paying off loans first? Or can you do a combination of both? What is the best way to utilize the money I've set aside? Okay, so business description and background of question. I own a chocolates company and have money set aside for investing in my business. But I am unsure if it's best to invest all of it in one section of my life or break it apart to invest in multiple things. Lindsay, I enjoy simplicity in my life. As complex as my life might look, on the inside, the back office is super simple. So number one, you mentioned paying off loans. If you have loans that you're paying interest on, to me, that's the number one thing. I don't have loans. I don't have debt. I can't sleep at night if I owe people money. Honestly, if you loan me $10 because I forgot my wallet, and I won't sleep that night unless I Venmo it to you that night. It makes me sick to owe money. Knowing that it's being charged with interest makes me even more sick. So if you have the opportunity to pay off debt and you have that money sitting in the bank, let's do the math. You are not earning 1% in the bank. Interest rates are so low right now that you're definitely not earning that. So let's say you're earning 1%, right? You have $100 in the bank. At the end of 1 year, you have $101. That's all you made, 1% in a year. Interest is always calculated annually. So you made $1 over here off your $100. And let's say over here, you owe $100 to a credit card at 22%. If you made no payments and a year passed, you now owe $22 here. So $100 in the bank made you $1. $100 on a credit card put you in the whole $22. But you have $1 that you made here, so you're now down $21. You lost $21. Your net worth is dropping. So you see why taking the savings, it's making you basically nothing at 1%, which you're not even earning that because right now interest rates are so low. Take it over here, and you just earned $21 by paying off that debt. You cleared that out of your mind. You're done. Get the debt out of the way and never fall back into it, and then start growing. Now, as far as investments, I'll tell you what I do. It's the same thing that Tony Robbins in his book, I think it's Unshakable, I think is the book, where he quotes Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett's, one of the best investors of all times. He says, along with Ray Dalio, those guys are big time. So Warren Buffett, his instructions to his wife are very clear from what I understand and I've read. When he dies, he wants her to put all the money in the S&P 500 and don't touch it. The S&P 500, you're betting on the 500 largest companies. So you're just betting on the economy that over time always grows. Sure, there may be ups and downs, but over time, imagine if I told you I'll give you 1,000 shares of the S&P 500 back in 1950. What would that be worth today? It's escalated, right? So 20, 30 years from now, the S&P 500 will continue. It's a good bet. And you're not trying to pick winners and losers. I own no individual stocks. I max out mine and my wife's 401k, and we do other investments like that. And it's all similar to S&P 500. You're just betting on the market. Pretty safe. So there's that. However, for me, I am able to generate a better return on investment than the stock market every year. I've always been able to, because I know what I'm doing with my business. I don't know if I put $500,000 in Google, I don't know if Google's going to manage it well. I don't know if they're out. I don't know the competition. I don't know what's around the corner. They may or may. I don't know the laws that might affect them, right? So I'm a little bit scared investing in individual companies, except for my own companies, because I understand the landscape. I know who my competitors are. I know inside information, which is illegal when you invest in the stock market. But when you're yourself, that's not illegal. You're looking for information all the time. And then you have $1 million sitting here and you say, let's see, should I put it in the stock market? Should I buy real estate? Or should I invest it in what I know is a great opportunity, like buying out this competitor, like getting more customers, those sort of things. That's the stuff. That's how I think about it. Did you ask here about real estate? Yeah, buying a house. I think buying a house is a great thing. There's a guy who's written a lot of real estate books named Grant Cardone. He actually says you should rent your house and don't tie up your money on something that you're living in. You should just rent it, but then you should buy rental properties, and you should do all of this. I really believe in rental properties. I think right now real estate is very expensive. The rates are really low, but if those rates could stay low, but real estate prices could drop, I think there's going to be a buying frenzy, and I'm waiting for that. I don't know if it'll happen in that way, but real estate is fantastic. You get to save a lot on taxes, and the more money you make, the more real estate becomes important, because you're going to save on that high tax rate you might be paying at the time. All right, next question is from Bob Gigeri. I hope I pronounced it right. Question is, in offering free product samples online, I have attracted many requests from people who I suspect are not my target audience and just want free stuff. Should I treat these prospects the same? Are there strategies that work to offer free samples to attract customers? Business description and background of question. To promote my product, I advertise free samples on Facebook and Instagram to a targeted audience. I've done this twice, and in both cases, after a few days, I would get added to a free stuff Facebook group and receive hundreds of requests. I've shipped samples to about 50% of the requests, but decided not to ship samples to everyone, as I wasn't convinced they were my target audience. Elevator pitch. Over the past few years, developed a skincare massage product, and I'm looking to build a brand and company around it. Well, Bob, I don't know that you're in the right place for free stuff. If you had an audience that were already customers, that's where I think it'd make more sense to give a free product. For example, you own a spa, or where they do massages, or the face cream, or whatever. You have a skincare and massage products. Well, if you already had that customer that's coming back every other week or every month for the services, and you give them a small free sample, and they're going to come back next month, and you're going to talk to them and say, hey, did you like the sample? Would you like to buy one now that you've tested it? And you can pressure them into buying it somehow. That would make sense. But you're just spreading stuff out to strangers. There's no loyalty. There's no, they don't have to show face again and come back to you and sit like this in front of you and feel awkward by saying no. The reason, and there's a really good book called Persuasion. It's not persuasion, it's persuasion, and it's how it works when you give a free gift and why does it work. Well, part of that, I think you have to be face to face, and here's why. When you go to a mall, a shopping mall, and you go to the food court, and there's people there with a plate and a toothpick, and they give you the teriyaki chicken, and you taste it, and you've got it in your mouth, and you're saying, "Oh, that's great, thank you." Person who gave it to you is standing right in front of you. Number one, they gave you a gift. So now natural human behavior is, oh man, they gave me a gift. I should do something for them. And they know their numbers. They know the math. They'll spend, what does it cost in labor? $50 a day to have someone stand out there, and $5 in product a day that they're giving away, right? So they invest $55 just as an example. And they know that the return on investment, if they just had someone there with a clicker that, oh, they tasted our food, they bought, and they do the math, they're probably selling $400 or $500 a day, and they're spending the 55, right? Just in like the marketing to grab the person. If you could do it that way, I think it works. But just to give stuff away, you're nobody to them. You're just somebody who gave them a free product. They're not loyal to you. So I would keep that in mind. You have to follow up, and if you don't have an ability to follow up with strangers, they're just going to take the free stuff and run. Give you an example of somebody I know. It's two brothers. They used to have a landscaping company, and they would bid on these big jobs to, do all the landscaping for a new bank that's being built or a new office building, whatever the case might be. And these big contractors who were handling the whole construction, the general contractor, would have them bid on the job. We need 20 palm trees, we need these bushes, we need these flowers, and they'd put in their bids, and the general contractor would tell them, hey guys, on this one, you've got to really give us a really low price, okay? And if you may not make any money on this one, but we're going to get you a bunch more work later. So the reason they got away with this, general contractors got away with saying that, is because they knew there were 1,000 small landscape companies fighting for this business. And guess what these small landscape companies were doing? They were losing money to get that job so they can get in with the general contractor. And guess what the general contractor would do on the next job? He'd spread the word again. Guys, we need you to go real low on this one because there's going to be more work later. And they just kept doing that because there's enough people, enough small companies willing to keep losing money. And when that one goes out of business, it doesn't affect the general contractor. So in this situation, it's the same. You're just giving it away for the promise of somebody coming back to you. They're not loyal to you. They're just going to take your free stuff. So I'd have proper measures in place, whether it's a follow-up strategy. It depends if you even have access to these people. If you're just throwing it out there and hope they come back, very difficult. Because, see, I could be a good customer for you, as an example. I'm not out there looking for free samples. I'm out there looking for, somebody who I respect recommended this, and they say it's a very good product, so I want to try it. Or I went on Amazon, and it's highly rated. It has 10,000 reviews, and it's like 4.9 out of 5. That's what I trust. I don't just, I'm not looking for free samples. Hope that helps. All right, another question from Bob. Are the scenarios, I think it says are the scenarios, but are there scenarios where it is okay to spend 2x on product packaging compared to the total cost to produce the product? Business description and background of question. I'm considering using a $15 hand-blown glass container to hold $7 worth of product and pricing it at about $65. This is the skincare massage product brand. So spending $15 on a hand-blown glass container to hold $7 worth of product and pricing it at $65. Bob, could you do a very small order of those hand-blown glass containers and see what happens? And here's the thing. You could go try a million things, but if you don't get feedback, you're not really going to know. And send some of those, and then get a hold of those customers and say, we're doing some tests. We sent you a really elegant hand-blown glass container, and we'd love to get your thoughts on it. And in return, we're going to give you a gift, right? And ask those people, what did you do with it? Is it worth anything to you? Do you value it? Should we have done it a little less upscale and maybe saved you a little bit on money? What do you recommend? That's who I would ask. It's the people who give you money. I always say this: if you're selling something and you're asking your mom and your friends for advice, and you're thinking of launching a business, and they're all telling you how much they love it, that's a different story from people who actually give you the money. And that's your customer. The customer's opinion is what matters, not your mom's. So if you could try this on a small scale, test quickly, fail quickly, succeed quickly, and see what people think about this. First of all, see if it sells, right? When you do the presentation and you sell online or however you sell it, see if people like this, and then get their opinion afterwards. It would make for a really interesting story, by the way. I always think of everything as a story. When it's all said and done and you're retired and you say, I killed it. I sold $7 worth of products and I got $65 for it because I invested an additional 15 in the packaging. I'm sure there's a lot of stories like that, and that would make for a really interesting one if it works. So test it if you can. Test it and see what happens. Next question is from Kimberly Patterson. Is it okay that 50% of my earnings went into running Facebook ads? It's been exactly a year now since I have jumped into the deep end of learning and running Facebook ads. I've been running ads to my brides as well as to my first online makeup masterclass. In all, I have spent $5,788.94 and earned $12,137 in testing ads. So this, Kimberly, in the beginning, anything is possible, right? You could spend a lot and not make a profit in the beginning, but you're building this following, you're building this traction that could help you grow. And if you can get people to come back, you only spent on them one time, but now they're regular and you have their email, you have their text number, depending on your product. That's what a big part of this is. So if you tell me you've earned 12,137, I'm assuming you mean gross sales, right? You grossed 12,137. It's important to speak this way. Like, what did you gross? That's not what you profited, but you grossed that. You didn't make 12,000, you grossed 12,000. What you make is the profit at the bottom. So you grossed 12,000, you spent 5,700 on that. If you don't have cost of goods sold, if this is just a service and your time doing makeup online or however you do that, that's okay. Those numbers aren't so bad. You brought in 12,000 and half of that went to your main expense. And if there's no other expenses, that's not a bad business as long as you can scale it. How big can this thing become, right? If those numbers kept doubling every year, pretty soon it's a good business, right? So next year it'd be 24,000 and 12,000 of spend. And then 48,000 with 24,000 of spend. If you kept doing that, but hopefully you're spending, you're going to get better at running ads and you're going to get more efficient. And whatever doesn't work, you stop doing it. Whatever's working, you do more of that. And so the idea is to widen that delta. Here's your gross sales. Here's your expenses. See if you can grow that top line without having it match exactly, right? So that happens over time if you get really good at it. It sounds like you've been doing this for a year. You said you jumped in deep to learning Facebook ads. I'm sure you know a lot more than I do. Just keep improving that return on ad spend, the ROAS, and it should be more rewarding over time. Next question is from Stella Jezik. There's an N in front of the J. Hope I pronounced it right, unless it's Jezik. Okay, Stella. Question is, hello, I am brand new into inventory management for my apparel company. I'm looking for resources on how to properly inventory manage in order to set up processes. What software, devices, etc. can I use to manage inventory? Business description and background of question. I'm adding my first labeled fitness apparel to my web shop, and I could use some organization tips on how to run things smoothly and effectively. I'm in Croatia. Is there a certain web store software I should use, financial software, warehouse management, layout? Any help you can provide would be appreciated. Let's see here. Okay, Stella. So this is in my wheelhouse. We operate our own fulfillment center, and we ship thousands of products every day. And it didn't start that way. It started in my garage, trying to just physically, eyeball, wait, we need to order some of these. It was a mess. That's how it started. It's okay to start that way. But as you get going, it becomes more important to keep track of everything perfectly. This is something I hear so regularly from entrepreneurs that they need a system. And so some entrepreneurs that I know that I'm good friends with have gotten some of these systems. And what I find, in my opinion, and in doing demos of every company that's out there, I think I've done now, going to warehouses that operate with these systems, I've found a lot of holes. And it's almost like this software company almost has it right, but they have this, and this that they're not doing right. And this other one has a lot of good things that this one doesn't, but they're not doing these other things right. So what we had to do, we had to do it. We didn't want to go with something outside the box or out of the box. We created our own software for this exactly. So I just formed a partnership with some very successful entrepreneurs who've done similar things to this. And so we're going to start licensing software that I think covers 99% of what people need to do this. We don't have anything readily available today. We've only we're beta testing with some folks. But I'm in this world I'll throw out some people that are in this so you can look them up, but for software purposes. But I'm finding a huge need for exactly what you're talking about, software to organize your own fulfillment, and then also fulfillment centers. I know there's a ton of them out there, but I visited a lot of them. I've talked to a lot of them, and there's a lot of holes in that too. I don't think they're doing things that great. So we're also looking to start getting warehouses and start fulfillment centers because of this. And you know, your timing is good. It's where everybody's going through. A lot of people are going through this right now, looking for these solutions. So one that I've heard is good. I've seen it in action. It has a few things. Is Finale. That's a software that works for inventory management and warehouse order processing. Another is SKU Vault, SKU Vault, VAULT. So I know these. I've done the demos with their salespeople, with their technical people. I've even told them I have my own software. It does this, this, and this. If you guys are better, I'll drop it and I'll go with you guys. And none of them have been able to show me. In fact, I've showed them ours, and they said no, they don't have those capabilities. But those are good ones that are out there that are definitely not bad. Last question. All right, this is from Michael Forrest. Question is, how do I know if I'm advertising in the right place or whether or not if I am getting a good return on my marketing investment? I'm a garage door installation and service company, and I'm currently advertising through Angie's List, Facebook ads, and Google ads. Currently have a media/ad company handling the Facebook and Google ads. Angie's List provides leads. So, Michael, I don't know if you are able to say, all this business came from this platform, right? Did it come from Google, Facebook? You can always, because you speak to the people, I'm sure, in your line of work. This isn't just an e-commerce transaction that happens. I'm sure that you can ask them, where'd you find this? Because every service company I ever talk to, plumbers and air conditioning people, if I ever switch to a new one someone recommends, I'll talk to them, and they always ask, where'd you find this? And they seem to, hopefully, to be tabulating that. Hopefully it's not just a piece of paper where they're putting it on there and passing it on. I hope someone is taking a look at that, because that's what's going to tell you what's working. I don't know the company that you are using for these ads. Ask them, how can they keep track and where to show you you're paying them, not just to put an ad, but to hopefully show you the results and what's working and where is it coming from. And you may be getting a lot of phone calls and traffic from one ad or type or from Facebook, but maybe that's not the one that converts, right? So maybe you change the ads or you stop advertising there. So, you know, not all platforms and not all ads are created equal. So I would try everything and then start shutting off or changing what doesn't work and going more with the ones that do work. Uh, Sometimes you'll probably find this little niche thing that just works. It's a particular ad on a particular website or a certain way you post yourself on Angie's List or however it works. I would just keep playing with it and look for it. And if you already, like I said, if you're not running these yourselves, you have an advantage. Use that company that you're paying for and ask them to give you a little bit of guidance on the results. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you have a great day, and thank you for your time.